Okay. Hey, y'all. I'm Arwen, the professional joy seeker. And this is my ArwenTalks, where I want to be Barbara Walters. And so I go find people to get them to come talk to me. And this young lady is, well, she's a traveler. She goes all over the place. And she's really fun about sharing stuff on her channel with us. So if you're not a fan of Wayward Sun, I hope that you will go clickety, clickety, click and make sure you are subscribed to her, because she's just a lot of fun and she's somebody that I really enjoy talking to. So say hello to everybody and tell us what we should call you. I mean, I wrote down Wayward, so I wouldn't call you anything else. And that's going to sound a little weird, but if that's so.
Well, hello, welcome. I thank you for having me today. I'm so super excited to be here, and you guys can call me Wayward or Wayward Sun or Sunny or whatever you want. I don't really care. It's just the persona that I've taken for my online adventures in this last year has special meaning to me. And I don't use my real name much in this area just as of yet, because I have a professional side of me too, where I'm kind of in the internet, and I'm not sure I'm quite ready to let those things mesh.
Absolutely. I think that's really smart. So today we're doing the 13 things I want to know about you. And I've got about 20 questions, and I'm going to pick and choose because, as you know, people have been studying up on the questions. So, first thing I want to know, I know, right? Tell us about your name. Tell us, you know, if you can, tell us why that name is a unique name, and tell us what it means to you. I always hear the Kansas song.
Yes, that's almost exactly where it came from, and it sounds funny, but I was on a journey one day, and I was trying to decide. I knew I wanted to start a YouTube channel, and I knew I wanted to talk about tarot and Reiki and all the things that I love. And I actually had a journal page out, and I was journaling. I was just jotting down names and things that I liked and things that came to me. But as I was on this journey that day, I was in my car and I was driving to the beautiful mountains in the springtime. And the song Wayward Sun by Kansas, it came on the radio like 3 times during this journey. And that's always a song I've related to, and especially that era of rock and things. And so it just, honestly, it just kind of stuck. It stuck with me. There it is. Came with me awesome. From day one.
Well, I have to tell you that a couple of years ago, my son, when I lived in Austin, he had a good friend that worked at one of the venues there in town. And this guy would call him, Casey lived down south of me in San Antonio. And Casey called me. He said, you know, my friend's got 4 tickets to see Kansas. Do you want to go? I almost went through the phone. Right? Give me.
Awesome.
I got him. He told me like 6 hours before the concert, because they were trying to fill seats, of course. And so I walk up to a coworker who's a cool guy. I enjoyed him as a younger kid, and I'm trying to give these tickets away. I found one person that would go. And so I walk up to him and I said, you know, I've got 2 tickets to Kansas. Would you like to go? And he went, Kansas, are they a country group?
Oh,
said,
no.
I'm sorry. Offer rescinded. You can't go. Oh. But I did find 2 people to go from work, and then a good girlfriend of mine. Such a good time. I mean,
I've never seen them live.
Awesome.
It sounds like something I would really enjoy, because I've been to a lot of concerts by the bands from that era, and I love them all. Love them all.
Yeah, I would go. Styx would be the other one that I would be in Boston. Styx in Boston and Kansas are probably my big. But I think they were, you know, in that genre, they were kind of the.
Absolutely. That was some of the best of the best. If you're into music like that, it's life. It is.
Tell me what you remember about the first thing you ever heard about witches or pagans or alternative spiritual paths.
Ooh, so, dang, that's one I hadn't thought of, Arwen.
Yes.
So I think it was probably the movie that's still one of my favorites. Is called Fantasia which
I
was
love
an
that movie.
older, yeah, the Disney one that came out in the 70s, I think, the first time it was released. And particularly the little segment, the picture, the sorcerer, where Mickey was the sorcerer and he made the buckets dance and the water mops, and that spoke to me. But also the parts with the willowy trees and the dancing flowers and the things like that, because I remember even as a tiny child walking through the woods with my grandmother, and she'd be like, you know, oh, look for the fairies, look, the trees are speaking to you. And that movie was a vision of just everything that I had in my imagination of course that's what the trees do. They're dancing and they're playing with the flowers when no one's watching. So yeah, that's probably my first movie I can relate that to.
That's a wonderful, wonderful movie. For those of you that haven't seen it, it takes classic pieces of music like Night on Bald Mountain, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, I think maybe to Night on Bald Mountain. But there's also a piece, my favorite is the Pegasus, the flying horses, and the centaurs,
Yes.
and all of them playing. I just love that. And I used to draw flying horses like all the time. Somewhere in all of my stuff, I may still have a handful. I would color them and then cut them out carefully. But I got to re-see, they did a second Fantasia. But those of you who haven't seen Fantasia, Google Walt Disney on LSD. And I'm pretty sure Fantasia comes up.
It's true.
It's trippy. But it's good. It's beautiful music, amazing animation, but it's really a fabulous show. And they showed it at midnight when they came out with Fantasia 2000. No, they came out with another Fantasia.
I remember that. Yeah, it wasn't as good.
It didn't have the druggy magic that the first one did, you know. And I saw it when I was young. I'm 54, so I was a young kid, but it was so.
My favorite.
Go see it, y'all.
My favorite Disney by far, still to this day.
Ha ha ha. Briar says, I remember that movie playing a lot during nap time at my babysitter's. That's right. Put the kiddies out to some classical music.
It works.
Now, what's your favorite form of divination? I know you love tarot. Is that your favorite, or do you have something else that you like for yourself?
Gosh, it would be so hard to pin it down. I love tarot as a newer. That's probably one of my newer favorites. An older favorite that I've probably done longer, since childhood, is reading coffee cups. And I think I actually posted on Instagram about that not too long ago, because not only do you get to enjoy the delicious, delicious coffee, you can also read your cup after, or read your friend's cup if you have someone with you. And it's just kind of a fun little quirky little cool divination thing. It's, if you haven't ever seen anybody do it, I think there's some videos on YouTube, like Turkey and people from Turkey that read the tea leaves and the things in the cups and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But it's basically just, you drink your coffee and then you stare inside and you see images or little shapes and things, and then you relate those to, maybe if it's a flower, that's going to be happy, or if you see a bird, it could be news on the way, and it depends on its position in the cup. And my grandmother always read to me that the final story, or what's going to happen by the end of today, is what's in the bottom of your cup. Fun.
Very cool. Now, have you heard of, where are they? That's not them. Yes, that is them. Have you heard of the tea leaf cards?
No. Oh, how fun.
It's done by Ray Hepburn, who lives up in, I think she's in Washington State. She's up in the Pacific Northwest somewhere. And she's a lovely, lovely British woman. Has done tea leaf reading forever. And so she translated it into this set of cards. It's very fun. So I'm going to do a review on those. Yeah, it's very cool. And I did see yours because you had, it looked like it was a tall cup of coffee. It looked like it was a Starbucks or something.
Oh, absolutely. The bigger, the better.
Now, Sunny, tell me, Have you ever done a working that like backfired on you or didn't bring exactly what you wanted it to bring?
Um, I I think so. Maybe most recently, I I tried to I attempted to start working with some of the tarot cards that I bought. And I read and I watched online from some of my friends that you should do this introductory, you know, spread, if you will, and tell me how we can work together and tell me what our outcome of our relationship is. And I loved that very much until I bought our particular deck. And I had decided to incorporate the question, oh, deck, what do you think of me? Bad idea. It was so bad. This deck has called me names ever since that day. He calls me the fool. He calls me, the idiot. Every time I have an interaction of this deck, it makes fun of me.
And so, what deck is that?
It's actually just an Egyptian tarot deck. It's got beautiful Egyptian pictures and things on it. It's just kind of a cheapy deck that I got from an app that is called Wish, which is where all my money goes. Okay. And it came from China, and it's beautiful. I love the art. I buy decks for the art on them. So I love the Egyptian style, and I thought that would be fun. But this deck has got a sick sense of humor, and it likes to call me names.
Well, I put that one. I said, you're going to go over here for a while so you can talk better. Treat it just like a rotten child. Now, I always ask this question, and it may not be a question that works for you because I know you're up in the Northwest. So, red sauce or green sauce?
Fry sauce.
Did you say brown sauce?
Fry sauce. And nobody that doesn't come from this area knows what fry sauce is. But fry sauce is a thing that we put on our potatoes. And it's a mixture of ketchup and mayonnaise. And if you're lucky, there's a little bit of spicy something in there, like some barbecue. And it goes on your potatoes, and it goes on your hash browns, and it goes on everything. Fry sauce.
I just saw online, and it was a bottle of something. It was somebody's Mr. Somebody's fry sauce, and it says, save it for the fries. And somebody said, I'm going to put it on the burgers and the fries. And I wonder if it's something from up in that area. I'll have to find it.
So
it was
good.
On Instagram.
Yes, it's so good. And if I travel out of the area and I ask for some fry sauce, nobody knows what I'm talking about. So
no, I've never heard of it. Now, is there an afterlife in your belief system?
Absolutely. I come from a background in nursing, and in particular, a lot of what I worked with was I did some hospice. And I would be completely telling a lie if I told anyone that I didn't believe that there was something that happened when a person moves from this life to wherever. And I know that there's a lot of names for that. And I've learned a lot of different cultures and their beliefs in that. And I like to keep a big open mind and learn lots of things like that. But absolutely. I am 100% just through not only my own life experience, but through helping others through that transformation from life to death, that there's absolutely something that happens along those lines. And I like to work with that kind of stuff a lot.
When my mother was right before she died, it was a Sunday night, and I had called her and tried to talk to her, and she was just incoherent. She had kidney failure and cancer, and she had opted out of dialysis. So she was in that where they transition and they start talking and doing all that moaning and different stuff that a kidney patient does.
Sorry to hear that.
It was rough. It was, but Mama had really prepared everybody for it. We'd known for 2 years that it was inoperable cancer, and we just had borrowed time at that point. So I called her on the phone. And I realized, it was time. When I went back, she died that Thursday. One of her best friends named Tana, she told my sister and I, she said, girls, I need to tell you that when I talked to Mary Lou on Monday, Mama was more coherent when she called. She said that she'd had a dream that Maury, my stepdaddy and my mother's partner for 18 years, had called her and said he was coming to pick her up on Thursday. And I said, well, that man was never late. So,
Yes,
who are we to say that that was just some sort of coincidence?
it is absolutely so true that happens in so many. I call it a transformation. It's just the opposite of a birth. And honestly, I've never understood why, when we're born and we come into this world, people are all happy and excited, and there's gifts and presents, and all the family comes, and there's so much joy. Well, I see death as just the opposite of that. In my own working and in what I want to do to help others, I want to help people to see that death is just the opposite of birth, and it's just, going to another place, or whatever you want to think is fine. But it should be celebrated, and it should be, even though it is very sad and it leaves the rest of us in grief, it is a wonderful thing for those of us that have to go through it. And we're all going to have to at some point, everybody.
I know a wonderful human being by the name of Nora Cedarwood. Cedarwood? Oh God, Nora, I've just screwed your name up. But she is a death midwife. And that's what she does. She goes and she helps people
transition.
It's
a transition.
Exactly. So
yes,
she teaches classes out on the Seattle area. So she's a pretty cool lady.
That's really awesome. I think there should be more of that in the world. And I think that we're in a day and age where that is becoming more of the, I don't know if it's more of the norm, but it is more, it's out there. So that's wonderful. Wonderful.
I'm very fascinated by it. I have Scorpio moon. Do you have Scorpio in your first three? I can't remember.
I don't. Nope. Just Pisces, Aquarius rising, and my my moon, which I didn't really understand about it until I started watching your tarot scopes, is Sagittarius, which explains a lot about the traveler.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It makes you very happy to get and go.
It does.
So let's see. I'm watching the... I'm just watching y'all in the chat to make sure if you have questions. I don't know if there's any moderators in there right now. It doesn't look like it, so we'll fix that out. So, deserted island time.
Oh,
you can take 5 magical tools. They don't need to be double duty survival, damn Virgos. They just need to be magical tools. What do you take?
I would have to go the route of you say that journal and a pen is the same thing. So that would have to be there because I'm a big journaler. I would have to go at least 1 deck of tarot cards because I think at this point without them I would be lost. I'd have to think really hard about the things that I use in Reiki practice and probably take some of those along, which would be like gemstones or pieces of jewelry. That's too hard. But okay, so I think the biggest thing, I don't know if anybody's said this one, I'd have to take at least my blanket, because my blanket is, it's Reiki charged. For one thing, I don't know if anybody else does that, but it helps me to enjoy and have very interesting dreams and receive messages through sleep. And that's a super big, important part of my life too.
Very cool. I like that. I have what my husband fondly calls my binky. It's not charged, but it's just a Sherpa stuff on one side and leopard print on the other side, and I take it everywhere. I sleep with it. If I'm napping, I have it. I mean, it's like you would think I was 3-year-old because I need it.
I can totally relate. So, mine has been to the dentist with me.
Oh, somebody just said there's a Virgo in the room. Sorry, Virgo, you do know how you can be about that sort of thing. You want everything practical. So when you charge an item, do you bring your hands down and do the energy. I've had Reiki done on my body, so is that how you're doing it? What do you do to charge it? Can you tell us?
So Reiki charging is very much, I love working with Reiki and incorporating tarot. That's kind of a different thing, but Reiki is, to me, all about the feels in life. And if we can ground ourselves and then start thinking outward of all the things that are around us, and especially all of the positive feelings and the positive people and the wonderful, beautiful sunsets and this beach over here and this mountain range. And if we can bring all that positivity in and channel it into something, it brings that positivity to it. And I think that's what a Reiki charge is to me, in my mind.
You know, I had a friend whose daughter, and she was young. She was maybe 10, 11, in a pagan family. And they made Fimo balls, just little tiny. And I still have mine. I don't know. I can't put hands on it right now, but it used to go with me to work all the time. And it's just made out of, different colored clay, out of Fimo clay. But she charged it to be a happiness battery. And I will imagine now that I look back that she was probably a natural Reiki master. Just had that. She understood you put energy into something to hold it.
Exactly. So, yes. And it's such a relaxing feeling, and it's such a relaxing thing to do. And I like to practice stealth Reiki. That's something that you can do anywhere, anytime. And I do it a lot on the road. I'll tell you what, because there can be a lot of people around you that have high anxiety and anger issues, and if you can just kind of sit quietly in your own little Reiki bubble and practice that by yourself, it makes travel a whole lot better, for one thing, and just life in general.
Yeah, and when you travel a lot, you need tools like that, because it's much better than reaching over and going, stop that.
That is true. That is true. It's one of those sneaky stealth Reiki things. I can sometimes send a bubble of positive happiness and a silent cup of shut the fuck up to people across
balanced.
Across the aisle from me, and I'm here to tell you there's something to it. You really can.
Absolutely. I have a massage therapist who does traditional massage therapy, but she will also, if she knows you're open to it, she'll do Reiki at the same time. And I come out of those massages going,
it's wonderful.
I'm so happy.
It's wonderful.
It's lovely.
I used to try to.
She's one of our secret weapons.
That's amazing. It's so much fun. And I used to try to incorporate that into my nursing practice as well. And I know that there are nurses. I read a great book called Reiki Nurse about someone that used Reiki in their home health practice. And I always kind of aspired to get there myself someday. And unfortunately, that just didn't work out in the area where I live, but I know it's going on in other places. So maybe a matter of time.
Are you familiar with Tony Gilbert?
That sounds familiar.
She's an RN, a tarot counselor, and does transpersonal counseling. And she just was part of a book called Nurses Spark, I believe. And it's an anthology of nurses and some alternative healing methods they do. You might want to find Tony online. She's an amazing, amazing woman, and has written several books that are just more tarot-based, but she's also incorporates her healing work.
I'll definitely look her up. That sounds right up my alley.
Yeah. That's what I was just thinking. I was just thinking, why have I never connected them? Because, God, they're in the same field. Now, do you work with herbs in your work in your altar room?
A little bit. That's one of the things that's a little bit newer to me. So I'm trying to learn.
So what I was going to ask you is, do you the question I ask is, name 3 herbs that you use in your kitchen that you're just as likely to use in your work. So if you're new to it, that might be a more difficult one. Herbs, seasonings, just kind of an open-ended thing.
So I can only think of one off the top of my head, and that would have to be mint. like
Oh.
wild spearmint, because not only is it wonderful in your tea or other things that you're flavoring minty, but it's also topically a very soothing, kind of tingly sometimes, and can be really good for energy work as well.
Very
And I
cool.
have some growing.
Somebody asked what transpersonal is. That's a bigger topic, and maybe I'll get Tony on here. Maybe I'll see if she'll come do a chat and we can talk a little bit about that, and y'all can learn more from her, because I really just know the word through her. I don't really know the meaning, so I don't want to make shit up. Now, how do you intentionally honor or care for what you see as deity? If you don't want to answer that, just say pass, because some people don't want to answer that, and I completely understand.
I think that I've learned the most from not being afraid to ask questions, but then sitting back silently and just listening and waiting for the answers. That, and probably just making sure that I am regularly recharged and full of their energy and love and light. And this sounds silly. Maybe there's some people that are gamers, play video games and stuff. So if you think about your health bar, which is usually like the little red thingy, and that is how many hit points you have, or how much health your body has. And then sometimes there's another little bar that's blue or yellow or something, and that's called your mana bar. And that is how your ability, how much do you have energy wise to put out into the world in whatever form you choose. If I don't recharge my mana bar regularly, and I can tell when it's time, I feel horrible. It's a real downer. And I think that's, I just know, I know it's time for me to reach out to my deity and to my sources of energy, and I go and do it. And that's always by going out into the wild, the wilderness where I live, the world around me, outside. I have to be there.
Very, very cool, and very smart. I mean, I really love that you said you talk and then you shut up and listen, because that's one of my biggest things with people that I talk to in the pagan world. We're all about, oh, goddess, I really need this, blah, 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 blah. And if you've ever had that lunch date, you're like, are you ever going to shut up so I can tell you what to do? And I just get this picture of deity going, and walking off from us, or, taking the phone and going, okay,
right.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. So.
And timing, it's a timing thing as well. I learned a lot from my own spirit guides as it came to me in an answer one day. I was like, I haven't heard from you in a while. What's going on? I haven't had a sign. I haven't had a good dream. And it was because I had switched I worked nights for about 10 years, 15 years or better. And all of a sudden I switched and I was working days. And so energetically, here I've completely switched my energy to the day shift rather than the night shift. And of course, what I was reaching out for was not there at the same time. So
very interesting. And they did say they got the gamer reference. So, Chase, I thought you said gamer, and I was going to twitch you about that, but he's a gamer. So, somebody says they love my headphones. Thank you.
I love your headphones too.
I have to keep a headphone on, because if I don't, I found that when I'm talking to somebody, sometimes it'll echo back. And so then we sound like we're talking to Dory's whale. So now let's see. Name something. I think you've already said it, but name something that always brings you joy.
Heart-shaped stuff.
Ooh.
Anything, like if you're out walking around the city and you see a spot on the dirt or the ground, the sidewalk or something where somebody spilled something, if it's in the shape of a heart, that makes me happy. If I see it on a tree, like in a knot hole, or maybe a rock that's shaped like a heart. I'm always looking for those. A cloud in the shape of, yes. That always makes me happy. And I have a poster about that. It's called Love is Where You Find It.
I love that.
You have to look for it, but it's always there around you. So that's what I like.
You should take pictures of these hearts you see. That would be very cool on your Instagram.
That's a great idea. I will do that in the future.
You can tag it Wayward Heart or something, so we have a tag to follow. Yeah,
okay.
Everybody, if you're on Instagram, follow her, and then we'll find a tag, and let's just use Wayward Heart. Wayward Sun Heart, SUN Heart. I don't know. That's long. We'll
Wayward
figure it
Heart.
out. But
Wayward Heart sounds great.
Yeah, and we'll all tag it, and so that we'll start a new tag.
That
and
sounds
for those
perfect.
of you doing my 3 Daily Joys on Instagram, thank you so much. It's been like a blast seeing we're getting more and more people doing it, so it's really cool. Let's see. Okay. I'm just looking. She is cool, isn't she? They're saying you're very cool. They love your voice.
Oh, thank you.
Now, we're coming into kind of the last of the questions. Who's the first YouTuber that you can remember watching?
You.
Me? Really?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sure there's some people saying Tiptoe Chick, Ember.
No, I absolutely started my journey with you from, I think it was I think we decided it was about 5 years ago that you were doing your Zentangle stuff on your blog really big.
Yeah.
And from there I was like, hey, Arwen's pretty cool on this blog. And I was checking in on that. And then I started watching the videos and I was like, hey, Taro, that's cool. And hey, look, she made a Lenormand and the deck. And I should buy that. Yeah. So all your fault.
Thank you very much. I've the newer deck, where is it? This one, Secret to the Mystic Road, has been getting a lot of people. The journalers are really loving it because they're having a lot of fun with the journal questions. So that's been a lot of fun watching that one.
It's another beauty. Beautiful.
Elaine Thomas is so incredibly, her artwork is wonderful. So, I've had the best luck. I got to work with Lisa Hunt, with Mary Elaine Thomas. I'm very blessed in that area. So now let me ask you this. What's your favorite meal?
I have to say, I think my favorite food in the whole entire world is a tamale that comes in a corn wrapper that is sold in the back of a trunk in some kind of parking lot like Walmart by some little old lady that is making tamales in her garage and selling them for a dozen for $5. That's my favorite. I
gotta tell you, I adore tamales. My husband doesn't like them, so I can buy a dozen from, there's a couple of people here in town that if you know the right people, they'll hook you up. And, you can get red pork or green chicken. I mean, they make all sorts of... It's such the best. And I guess that would be the green sauce. So, yeah. So there you go. Tamales with my green sauce. Yeah. And for those of you who are not tamale lovers, no problem. Send them to us. Yes. And we will eat those puppies up. I'll keep them in... if I get a dozen, I'll rewrap them so I've got like two or three, and I just dump sour cream on them. I'm so not healthy. But so good. Right? Yes. Now, Wayward Sun. Oh, I'm just saying. I'm sorry, I got distracted. Ghost story time. With your job and doing hospice work, have you ever had a real ghost experience, or have you had, spirits visit? So many times that it's just, I think the biggest light bulb moment for me that went back to when I learned Reiki as well is that, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or make them, have the feels and the stuff. Because when we talk about death, it's sometimes a very sensitive subject, of course, especially we all experience it. And
it was interesting for me to make this reverse. It was like a reverse. I'm searching for words. Like all of a sudden something just super makes sense to you and the light bulb is on over your head, you know? If you've ever been with a body, call it a corpse or whatever it is, a lot of people, I think 90% of the people would tell you that you just have this feeling that the shell is here, but the spirit is gone, right?
Absolutely.
So the inverse of that, to me, it's a complete no-brainer, is that if you have that feeling that the corpse is here, but the spirit is gone, why would you not be able to feel the spirit even though the body is not present? Of course you can. So to me, that was something that I learned, but then also had to exercise to allow myself to let that happen, because you're taught from such a very young age that, oh, that's not real. It's not, you know, it's not a ghost, blah, blah, blah. But I did experience a lot of that in my work. And it's not a scary story, but it's kind of a pretty one, is that I was with a lady as she was passing, and her husband was present, and it happened to be in a hospital setting rather than hospice. And there was a whole bunch of scurrying about and trying to decide what should be done. You know, if you don't have your advanced directives in place, find out what those are immediately and let people know what those are, because that's so important. But we were working on this lady and trying to decide what to do in the event that she passed. And her husband, I mean, they'd been married forever, was escorted out of the room to sit in the hallway quietly to wait, you know, while people were in and out of the room and machines and equipment and stuff like that. And being one of the people that, you know, I physically had my hands on her as we were working with her and stuff, I felt this, and it happens a lot to me. Her spirit left, but also I had this feeling of they left, not just her, they left. And it was sad, of course, but then we finished what we were doing and we're speaking with the family and the doctors and everything. And as someone, you know, was stepping out in the hallway to talk to the husband of 60 years, he was passed away in the chair in the hall.
How sweet.
They went together. And that was, I always have felt that was a very long time ago. That was probably 30 years ago, maybe. Maybe not quite that long, of course, not that long, but it was very special, and it still brings me a lot of good feels to think about being there.
Yeah, that's so wonderful that he was able to make that choice.
It absolutely was. It absolutely, you can't tell me that these things don't happen for a reason. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, very cool. I love that.
It's a happy ghost story.
Now, yay! Now, the very last question. Advice to somebody who's just starting out on their path. And I know you feel like you've just started on yours as well, but what would you tell somebody who's just beginning theirs?
Oh, gosh. Just jump in with both feet and do it, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Choose that day, make it your day, and just begin. And knowing nothing about tarot at all, you know, ooh, these are major arcana and these are sticks and circles and stuff, you know. I started my very own journal, my very first day, my first blog post or whatever you want to call it, April 1st. Fool's Day, April Fool's Day, the day of the fool. I had no idea, which is, looking back, that's kind of cool. I'm really excited about it. But yeah, just don't. If I can do it, anybody can do it. It's sometimes scary. Things happen that make you think a lot. But in the end, I mean, the relationships that I have made from this journey and the fun I have had and the good feels that have come along are so worth it. So worth it. Just do it.
Awesome. Very good. Just do it, guys. Now, when I end my, before I end, I want to remind y'all that in an hour and 35 minutes, I have another live chat coming up with Benabel Wynn. And we're going to do one of these chats. We're just going to yap about stuff. So if you want to come by, please do. She has agreed to do a little bit of a question and answer at the end if we have time. I forgot to ask Sunny if she would, so I'm not going to put her on the spot. But how do you say goodbye on your channel?
I briefly contemplated saying carry on. But
I love it.
That's so bad. No, I couldn't bring myself to do it. So I just say thank you and goodbye. Have a great day.
You should totally go carry on with Wayward Sun. I love it.
Yeah. I think that just puts it way over the top. I just no.
Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. We had a great crew, and I'm very excited that you were here. And hopefully I'll see you again in about an hour and a half. Seek joy, y'all. Bye-bye.